They didn't just demolish a neighborhood, they buried a secret. I am recording this as a confession, but it must serve as a warning. My name is not important. What matters is what I have just unleashed. It all started with an obscure campus legend known as the resident theory. Built in the 1960s, the University of Illinois Chicago is where the theory began. Its construction had a deeply controversial and highly political backstory from the start. An entire immigrant community in the Maxwell Street neighborhood was completely displaced for it. The resident theory claims this urban renewal was a cover for something else. It connects the campus to a much older, more terrifying Chicago legend. Most have heard the story of the devil baby of Hull House. Back in 1913, the rumor was Jane Addams was hiding something inside. The creature was said to have horns, a tail, and cloven hooves. For 6 straight weeks, thousands of visitors demanded Addams show it to them. The story had spread entirely by word of mouth before any newspapers reported it. In a 1916 article for The Atlantic, Jane Addams wrote about the phenomenon. She analyzed it as folklore, reflecting the anxieties of the immigrant community. She publicly debunked the story, but the resident theory claims she was lying. It claims she did not dismiss the entity, she chose to contain it. Decades later, in 1963, construction on the UIC campus began. This required demolishing a huge swath of the historic Maxwell Street neighborhood. The campus was designed by architect Walter Netsch in the brutalist style. Brutalism is characterized by massive, imposing forms made of poured concrete. These buildings are often described as looking like cold, modern-day fortresses. The theory suggests this construction was the perfect chance to entomb the secret. To test this, I started my investigation deep inside the university archives. The original Hull House mansion from 1856 became the center of my search. That building, located at 800 South Halsted, still exists on campus today. It even survived the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, a true anomaly. By the year 1912, Hull House was a settlement of 13 different buildings. Most of those buildings were demolished for the new university campus construction. I needed the blueprints for the new buildings constructed over the old site. I cross-referenced them with 19th century maps of the original Hull House settlement. For weeks, I found nothing. The records seemed to align almost perfectly. But then I found it, a discrepancy in the deep foundation plans. A section of the new foundation was poured around an existing structure. It created a structural void, a hidden chamber that was not on file. This void was located precisely where the oldest part of Hull House stood. This was the proof I needed, the justification to go look for myself. The anomaly was buried deep beneath the Behavioral Sciences Building, or BSB. The BSB, completed in 1969, was also designed by Walter Netsch. Its architecture is famously maze-like, one of the most confusing places on campus. This confusing design made it perfect for unnoticed entry, but also extremely dangerous. I planned my infiltration for the middle of the night during a semester break. The only way to reach the deep foundations was through the university steam tunnels. I found an unsecured access panel behind a maintenance shed near the building. From there, I would have to navigate a labyrinth of pipes and concrete. I had my phone with the blueprint overlays and a portable breaching kit. My path was planned to the inch to minimize any risk of detection. I knew once I went inside, I could not afford to make a mistake. The air in the tunnels was immediately hot, heavy, and smelled of rust. The only sounds were my own breathing and the hum of ancient machinery. The spaces were tight, forcing me to crawl over massive, scalding hot pipes. I constantly checked my phone, comparing the map to the tunnel's markings. This was Netsch's field theory architecture in its most raw, confusing form. His design is based on rotating squares into complex, non-traditional geometric shapes. The result is a deliberately disorienting space that feels like a true labyrinth. Twice I took a wrong turn, ending up at a dead-end wall. A wave of panic hit me. The darkness felt like it was pressing in. I forced myself to stop, breathe, and reorient using the digital compass. After what felt like hours, I found the junction marked on my map. It was a small, unmarked tunnel branching off from a main service corridor. Nobody would ever have a reason to come down this specific, forgotten path. The air grew colder here, the oppressive heat of the pipes finally fading. I followed the passage for 50 yards until it abruptly came to an end. A poured concrete wall from the 60s now stood smooth in my way. This was it. This was the spot on the blueprint. Site 9. I took out a small hammer and chisel from my breaching kit. I tapped the concrete wall, listening for any change in the sound. And then I heard it, a hollow echo that should not be there. The blueprints were correct. The concrete here was just a thin facade. I worked for nearly an hour, chipping away at the modern concrete wall. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space, a constant percussive cracking. Finally, my chisel broke through into empty space with a sudden lurch. I cleared away the debris and shone my light into the opening. Behind the concrete was not dirt or rock, but another, much older wall. It was made of 19th century brick, the original foundation of Hull House. The two eras of Chicago were separated by just 6 inches of concrete. The mortar on the old brick was weak. It crumbled away very easily. I pulled the bricks out one by one, creating a passage into darkness. I crawled through the opening into a small, stone-floored room, a hidden cell. The air was stale and carried a strange, coppery, animalistic smell. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing the details of the chamber. It was no bigger than 10 feet by 10 feet, a simple stone box. In the center of the floor was a heavy iron ring, bolted down. Attached to it was a length of chain ending in a rusted shackle. This was not a room. This was a prison built for a single occupant. I moved my light to the walls, and my blood ran completely cold. The stone was covered in deep scratches, gouges that were not human. They were too sharp, too deep, made by something desperate to get out. Then I saw the most damning piece of evidence in the entire room. In the brick wall opposite me was a small iron feeding slot. It was clearly a later addition, not part of the original 19th century construction. It was installed to pass food through to whatever was chained inside here. And on its small metal door, a date had been crudely stamped. The date was February 1965, the year the university officially opened. Jane Addams, the entity's supposed original caretaker, died decades earlier in 1935. Someone else had been keeping this thing alive, imprisoned here for 30 years. Then, in 1965, the university took over its containment duties. The legend was real, and it had been a prisoner this entire time. It was then that I realized the smell was not old. It was fresh. And the iron shackle on the floor, it was unlocked. it was open. My breaking in had not been the first disturbance to this hidden tomb. The chamber was not a historical site. It was an active containment cell. I heard a sound from the darkness behind me, back in the tunnels. It was a low, guttural breathing, something wet and heavy in the dark. The investigation was over. My only goal now was simply to get out. It was no longer contained, and it was still down here with me. I scrambled back through the wall and ran, blindly, into the service tunnels. The sound followed me, a skittering of claws on the concrete floor. The BSB's confusing architecture, its maze-like design, was now a deadly trap. Netsch's architectural theory had created the perfect hunting ground for this creature. Every turn I made felt wrong, leading me deeper into the building's guts. The building has 4 stories and over 200,000 square feet. I was completely lost in a concrete labyrinth with something inhuman hunting me. The breathing sound was getting closer, echoing from multiple directions at once. I never saw it clearly, only a flicker of movement in the shadows. By sheer luck, I stumbled upon the access panel I had first entered. I threw myself out into the cold night air and ran without looking back. This confession is not for forgiveness. I do not deserve any of that. It is a warning, because the threat is no longer contained beneath UIC. The university was built as a symbol of bold, modern, urban progress. But that progress came at the cost of displacing an entire community. And it was built on a secret that refused to stay buried forever. My mistake was not just breaking in. It was leaving the way open. I hear noises outside my apartment now, scratching sounds at the front door. What I set free from that place has finally found me.